Yep, so Christy will be here in September. She is out of town this week, but she will announce a date and we'll publish it in the parent newsletter and put it out there so everybody has access to it and can understand what it is. Have an opportunity to attend. So that date will be announced the first week of school. So all the new parents also have an opportunity to participate and returning parents.
Excellent. Any further discussion on that?
So they'll be nominating people at the beginning of the school year that won't serve until.
It's for the parent steering committee. So if a vacancy comes up,
Okay,
they would then be in place
yeah.
to do that.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is 7D, which is the student handbook for 2018-2019. And I have a note and some discussion that suggests we would refer that. Is that our intention? Or? So we put the wrong note. I'm sorry. Okay.
No.
So we are taking that one out.
I would like to, you know, as a parent, we just had this discussion, I have one, on this, when we heard there were changes made to the student handbook, my immediate knee-jerk reaction was, I want to know what the changes are. And I think it is well worth a few minutes of our time to walk through all of the changes that were suggested. The way that this normally works is Dean Mooney goes through and does her first round of changes. The registrar then looks at it, adds in any changes that he may have. And then I think you had the assistant dean look at it as well.
Right.
And then, so that is this is what we're having in front of us. So Lauren was going to put up on the screen the pages that we have changes on, and we're just going to highlight what the changes were.
Right.
So we make sure that if there was anything of complete deep substance, we could talk about it, so that everybody understands what it is. They're just not getting a final document. This is also on the, attached to the agenda online with the highlights, so you can see. Dean Mooney's highlights are in yellow, the registrars are in orange, if I remember correctly. Oh, there was, okay. Oh, never mind. Okay. Well, I have black and white, so there we go.
Okay.
So, Lauren, are you good to go?
It's plugging in, but it's not.
I have a question.
Yes.
When Ms. Bernard spoke, she said that the mission statement needed to be revised. Could you speak to that?
Mission statement for the school.
But it wasn't printed correctly in the handbook.
Yes. So I just.
Well, while Lauren is looking, you can absolutely look that up, because I have the mission statements.
That's the one that I
I'm
read.
assuming it should coincide with what, the chair read. I'm assuming. So.
Good point.
Sue, do you want to read the one out of the handbook?
That's what came off the website.
Okay, so do you have what you read?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Mission statement. The Founders Academy is a public charter school encompassing grades 6 through 12 that is free and open to all New Hampshire students. The Academy develops citizens and leaders who understand and apply the lessons of the past, demonstrate exceptional character.
No, 1 second. There's a word. I'm just writing it down.
Excellent.
After citizens and leaders.
Yep. The academy develops citizens and leaders, and then proceed from there. The second sentence.
Sorry. Develop citizens who understand and apply the lessons of the past, demonstrate exceptional character, participate.
And lead by example.
It does not, lead by example is at the end of that sentence.
Oh.
So after exceptional character,
Yeah.
what do you have?
Participate knowledgeably in community activities, comma, and lead by example, period.
Okay, so. And the next sentence.
The Academy recognizes the importance of balance in the development of each person and respects each student's individual journey, period. New paragraph. Principled leadership and good citizenship are fostered by means of a curriculum of classical studies that includes analyzing the lives of great men and women of history, comma, mining the rich classical deals of the Western tradition, comma, and tracing the evolution of the precious and costly ideals of liberty.
So there are 3 sections where there are some differences between the 2 drafts, and I don't know which is the earlier and which one's the later, or how there came to be 2 different versions. Does anybody That's some institutional knowledge, kind of shed light on.
I was not in on the original mission drafting, but I would defer to my founders as to which.
We look at the charter, we should go back and look at it, I suppose.
You can definitely do that. Did the mission ever change? Was it ever edited even for
No.
text?
No.
Okay, so
No.
let's see
The
what
one on the
the
website should be there.
charter says.
I wouldn't mind changing it and sort of tightening it up a bit, but that's not what we're doing tonight. Page 5. Why don't we just make a
So
motion?
there
that-
is, so the one that's on the school website is the one that is most current. Is that correct, Mrs. Lavalley?
It should be.
Okay, so that is what is in this, handbook is correctly, it is not the same as what's on the webpage.
Okay.
That is correct.
So, and the one that's actually in the charter that I'm reading right now is the one that I read off of the website, not the one that we edited, we heard from the book here.
Okay, great. So, going about changing this, is it okay to say that we want this to revert to what is on the webpage?
Absolutely. In fact, your timing is just perfect.
Oh,
So this is now up on the big screen. I could start to go over the edits and we'll start with, then we'll get to that one on the way.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so as Mrs. Lawton mentioned, every summer we take a look at the student handbook again. And pretty much edits to the student handbook start to acquire all year long. You know, teachers have suggestions, students have suggestions. I compile that throughout the year and then in the summer give the first draft to edits. And as you mentioned, show it to the registrar, show it to the assistant dean, and then eventually the board. It goes out to the public and so on. And then it's up to you to adopt them or modify them or add your own. This is not an inclusive project, considering the handbook can be edited at any time throughout the year by anyone, so long as there is board approval. So my edits, which are the only ones incorporated in this draft, are in yellow. So it starts with my annual statement, my annual message.
Actually, if we're going to be really, and I would like to be for
Yep.
this purpose, we do have changes on the front page, and it's the date, and it's the
True.
revision.
That is true.
And then the next change is your,
Right. Substantive change is my annual message, which is just the format of the handbook starts with that. Now, I just want to bring one thing up. You know, we have to be so careful. We have to be so careful with our words. And we have to back up what we say with facts. I'm going to read for all of you the last line. I consider it the privilege of a lifetime to serve as the dean to, that word, to students, faculty, and parents. Not of. Let's go to the next edit. Actually, let's go to Roman 2, small Roman 2. This statement here, and you are suggesting that it be replaced
with what's on the website.
with what's on the website. I will, add that to my edits here as one big amendment. So that will be no problem if you choose to adopt my amendments as a whole or piecemeal them or what have you.
So, Lauren, I believe that the next highlight is on page 10.
Thank you, so much. I also want to point out that all the regular language you see here is standing language right now, so it's from our current handbook. Nothing has changed if it is in regular font, not highlighted, or not crossed out.
Exactly. So, Lauren.
So here we just simply reversed the title of section 2.1. It's the first of our academic guidelines. Section 2 is related to all academics. Instead of quarterly and yearly mastery, we're calling it quarterly and course mastery. Go downward, please.
Yep, page 11. There you
you'll notice here, when it comes to mastery, quarterly mastery makes it very clear it's at the teacher's discretion, right here. It's remained unclear to teachers as to whether or not that applies to course mastery, so that's been added here. As for the deadline of a June 30th for course mastery, teachers have found that deadline to often have exceptions, so I have simply incorporated that here, unless an extension is granted.
Excellent. Page 4. Yep.
A little bit.
Yep, yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
That's all good.
Frequently, the registrar, this has come up in our, a lot of times in our scheduling committee meetings, which happen weekly, there is reason to sometimes place a NG, standing for no grade, for various reasons, based on a student not being able to continue or transferring in late, what have you. So it's quite different in consultation with the registrar from an I, is it incomplete, or a letter grade. So we simply added that now to the handbook to give an explanation as to what that means on a report card.
Page 13.
It's common practice here at Founders that we have an understanding that grades should be posted in the portal by teachers within 72 business hours of the due date of an assignment, unless, of course, there's an exception to that. Oftentimes, English papers require a longer period of time. But in looking at the faculty handbook, student handbook, that's not written anywhere. It's frequently an issue that's brought up by parents time and time again. They know it's our practice, but where is it? Thus, I've added it now to section 2.2.
In that draft that you have there in that section, it says that they will be posted. Does it require any amendment to allow for the flexibility for English papers and things that you've talked about?
Yes, the very last part of the sentence here, unless otherwise
Oh, I
stated.
got you.
Page.
Okay, with the addition of the Director of Student Affairs as an administrator now, when it comes to character grading, that is going to be one of the duties of the Director of Student Affairs. Thus, I have scratched out school counselor and thus added Director of Student Affairs. Additionally, these changes are reflected in step 2, which are follow-up sections to what character grading. Our Director of Student Affairs will have a much larger role in that, particularly in the follow-up to it.
Page 18.
This is an error, meaning no one quite knows how an orange highlight got in here, but I can assure you that this is all current language that remains in our current handbook. So I'd ask that you please disregard that highlight.
And page 29.
When investigating disciplinary bullying matters, the flow is such that parents receive a phone call and/or an ensuing letter, thus and/or is added there. Additionally, when it comes to consequences of bullying, the Director of Student Affairs will take a larger role in that, thus scratching out the role of a school counselor that doesn't classically do discipline.
Page 32.
Again, when it comes to the dress code, that would be under the purview of the Director of Student Affairs to enforce, not the school counselor, and that edit is reflected there in section 3.7.
Page 40.
Again, reflecting the larger, broader role of the Director of Student Affairs who oversees discipline now, and thus removing the school counselor role. Section 4.2. Throughout the years, multiple teachers have approached me with this request. I don't forget a request. And that is to ban energy drinks and highly caffeinated drinks at the school from students at any time.
Do the students ever bring coffee? Would that be regarded as being allowed or not allowed?
It would be as a highly caffeinated drink, it would not be allowed.
So coffee would not be allowed?
Correct.
And it hasn't been in the past? Students bring coffee?
They do. They do. Whether frozen or otherwise, as well as highly caffeinated energy drinks. Highly
So-
disturbing to teachers.
So certainly all of the things in the cans with the high caffeine and other stuff in them makes sense. Is it the intent to scoop in coffee and wrap that in together and just have none of the caffeinated drinks?
So you propose a.
I don't know, just discussion by the board, whether, or hearing from you guys from faculty, I don't know whether that caffeine is a problem with the school students. I mean, from a coffee.
Yeah. Just based on my discussions with faculty, this is the language that,
So they'd like it to include coffee in
right.
faculty? Okay, I support that.
I'm sorry.
Maybe
I'm sorry.
faculty
It's
does it.
okay.
I think we should discuss it, whether it's coffee and energy drinks and highly caffeinated.
If you would like to, this is the time to edit
Yeah.
any language, is the purpose of me going through this, so I would
Yeah.
suggest you have proposed language if you'd like to discuss that.
Yes,
Sure.
I didn't think about it. I don't think regular coffee, a lot of 16-year-old, a lot of kids stop at Dunkin's on their way to school. I don't know that we want regular coffee to be banned. It's the, what are they called? The Red Bull and the awful stuff that, that stuff that they bring,
called
they go to
taurine.
the hospital, so.
The
yeah.
chemicals taurine.
Yeah.
So I also think with respect to coffee with the kids, whether it's appropriate or not, I think the parents can figure that out. But if the teachers and the faculty and the administration may have a cup of coffee, you're setting an example for the kids. And to say it's banned for you but okay for me is probably not the right play.
I agree with you.
And I would assume that the teachers are going to have a cup of coffee.
I've walked in with boxes of junk. Yes.
So let's amend that to make it clear that coffee, regular coffee is not coffee, tea, or hot or cold. It's not good.
Okay, so the sentence will, you're proposing to read energy drinks and highly caffeinated drinks are not allowed to, with the exception of coffee and tea.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That covers it. I don't feel like we gotta use a 4-2 wordsmith sentence.
Exactly, and 47, I think is the last one.
Thank you for the discussion on that.
Those are the dates of the provision. And that completes my proposals to the student handbook this year. So again, you can change them, you can take them piecemeal, one by one if you like, adopt them as a whole, that's up to you.
Okay. So I want to hear the board's discussion about the comments that we heard about having the students and the parents have some more involvement in this and possibly considering it later. Or I know that Maureen had said, or Dean Moody had said, that we can always continue to make additional changes from time to time throughout the year. What do you think?
I personally, keeping in mind that it can be changed during the year.
So I just want
I
to
would-
point
I would
out, that's in
really-
section 6.0, very clearly, at any time, right to amend, update, revise a student handbook at any time throughout the academic year.
So I, for one, would like to make sure that the teachers and the administration have a guidebook that is clearly written on day one, from the beginning of school, that everybody can use as a playbook. That's students and teachers is alike. I want everybody to have a clear, and if we would like to have parents to have input, and we would like to have a committee and, or a discussion, that's deeper into this, I would personally want them to have a clear book to start with on day one of the school year.
That makes a lot of sense. How's the book distributed, electronically or on paper?
It's electronic.
Okay, so if there are some changes in a couple of months, if once school gets going, if there's a parent committee that proposes some changes that the board adopts, there's some need to communicate that to everybody that there's been a change, but it doesn't cost us anything to reprint the
No, no cost.
Okay.
I
just want to make sure that if we're voting on whether to accept this, not, you're also saying that the mission statement will reflect what is on the website.
I think that has to be in the motion, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think if someone were to make a motion about the handbook, it would be to adopt it with the changes discussed plus the correction to the mission statement. But
And I will make that motion.
okay. Sue makes that motion to adopt the student handbook with the amendments discussed tonight, including the correction to the mission statement. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, but I just want to make sure that everybody here knows that we're adopting these changes, but they can be changed at any time.
Exactly.
So that you have a chance to go through it and find out if you think there's other changes that need to be made.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that everyone understands that.
I think it's a good point. I think it's also a good point to suggest that the board is open to hearing people's suggestions and taking a look at them when they're necessary. So, any further discussion? Patty, anything to say? All right, there's a motion properly seconded to adopt the student handbook with the changes discussed here tonight, plus the correction of the mission statement. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? 5-0-0 to make that adoption. Get back to our agenda. So the next item on our agenda is 7C, which is the dress code, either policy consideration or presentation.
And just a reminder, this is a proposed edit to the handbook you just adopted.
It is.
Okay. Barbara, you have a question?
Well, on the dress code, a lot of people seem to be concerned about it. So my question is the dress code is part of the student handbook?
It is, so we would be adopting what is currently in place for last year with what we just agreed to.
Okay.
It doesn't have any of the new wording. We haven't heard the presentation from the people that have joined us this evening.
Okay, so,
Let's see if we can do a couple of things first. Can you bring up the section with the existing dress code? Or do we have the existing dress code?
3.7, please, Lauren.
And I think it's important to note that the dress code,
Do I have that here too?
the dress code changes that are being proposed were written by teachers from conversations with students, and Dean Mooney wanted this to wait until October, roughly, to allow all the students to come in and go through the procedure to get this done. There was another side to it from faculty that said we probably should have this in place on day one. It's easier to start this way. Let's try to get it done. The response back was, well, you need to get the students involved because this is student leadership. This is what it's all about. So some students were contacted. It was not, obviously it's summer, it's challenging, wasn't nearly enough. But I believe there are some here to present. So this is coming on the agenda at the request of our faculty and some students.
Yes, it wasn't initiated by the administration. It was brought to them by faculty who had talked to students, namely in the Student House of Representatives.
Format's quite a bit different between the two. I'm trying to get a comparison to what's different than the. Oh.
Yes, they're actually here to present.
Oh, that's how the presentation.
The students are coming up to do the presenting?
So Lisa Moore was going to read a statement, she had to step out, so I'm going to read the statement, and then we have a student that's going to read a statement, and then we can look at the comparison.
Sure, come on up to the podium, please. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Michael Belmont, I teach history. Thanks for hearing from us. It's the responsibility of schools and teachers to provide a safe and productive learning environment. Part of training the leaders of the future involves teaching them to dress for success. As such, the Founders Academy currently employs a student dress code. However, the current dress code is not enforceable. It is difficult to understand for both students and faculty. In roundtable, student government, and academic classes, students have expressed concerns about to faculty about the dress code. Many students feel that the dress code is unfair. Much of the language is restrictive of female clothing. The time has come to revise the dress code so that the focus in the classroom can be placed on learning. A group of students, teachers, and administrators recently met to discuss some minor changes to the dress code. These changes provide clarity and uniformity In order to be consistent, many teachers feel that it's important to implement these proposed changes prior to the start of the new school year, and we encourage to continue to have these conversations in student government and in roundtable. Thank you.
First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution provides individuals the freedom to express themselves. Over the course of history, the courts have ruled that students do not shed their constitutionality guaranteed rights at the school gate. School teachers and administrators have the duty to provide a safe and productive learning environment here at Founders Academy. Students have an opportunity to express their voices through student government as well as the creation of the student code of conduct and the dress code. At the present time, the student dress code lacks clarity. It is difficult for students and their parents to understand what clothing is and is not acceptable for school. Recently, a group of students, teachers, and administrators met to discuss some proposed changes to the dress code in order to make it easier for everyone to understand. Thank you.
It's a great presentation. Were you able to make sense of it?
Ms. Burdette, could you?
Yeah, so I just wanted to explain sort of how we got the new format. As a teacher, I teach history. As a teacher, it's very hard to understand the dress code as it's written. It's hard for students to understand it. Students don't know what half of the style tops that are listed in there are. I don't know what half of the style tops that are listed on there are. So the first and foremost, we wanted to make it more clear. A lot of the language in the proposed edits come directly from the dress code as it stands now. The changes are very minimal. A huge thing from the students was the sweatpants and athletic shorts. That's something that in the previous dress code is not allowed. Students wear sweatpants and athletic shorts to school every single day, and it's not enforced. It's not a rule that's enforced. It's sort of laughed at by the students because they know that they can wear it and get away with it. So that's something that most people agreed on and could have just been taken out. Another thing was my first set of revisions was completely gender neutral, and that's something that Ms. Stewart and I and a bunch of teachers thought was really important is taking out the gender stigma. We agree completely. In the meeting that we had with a group of students and parents, which we did push for more of a turnout, but again, we want to get this done before school starts so that we can start the year with new rules and again, circle back to the discussion if there's a need for that. But with the gender neutral thing, it's the girls with the skirts and the dresses. And we wanted to make it so that shorts could be allowed to be worn. It's really hard to find shorts that go to your knees, but dresses still have length to them because bending over in a dress or a skirt is much different than bending over in shorts. So that's where that language came from. I agree the gender neutrality was really important to us, and we tried to bring it as much as possible as gender neutral. But when we really dug into it, there are differences in the way that girls and boys dress, and it needs to be reflected in the dress code as best as possible. The other thing, is that kind of what we talked about in the meeting?
I think so. In the process that we went through, teachers came to me when I came on board. Students mentioned that dress code is not able to be uniformly enforced, that some kids get away with things that teachers are going, I don't know what sweatpants are anymore because boys wear joggers and we're being judge and jury on people's clothes. So this doesn't actually substantially change our dress code as it stands now. It allows for sweatpants and it makes an exception for shorts for young ladies that are not 2.5 inches above the knee because that's different than a dress. Other than that, our goal was truly to get something that could be easily presented, posted in classrooms, and didn't require someone, judging the word modest didn't require somebody looking at, necklines and it tries to take into account body shape, which some of the young women I spoke with said, my friends can wear these things, but then I keep getting bagged for them. And in our round table, we still intend to have those conversations about school is your place of work when you're a teenager or a young adult, and that you dress for success. We will have those conversations about when there are visitors to our school, please, step it up and dress nicely. But this is something that doesn't put teachers in an uncomfortable position of trying to judge kids' clothes from a list of what is, just, it's very basic.
So, is it okay for me to?
Yes, please.
So, as we all know, the lot of families been here since the first day. I don't understand, and please help me, but I don't understand why it's hard to know if somebody has sweatpants or, sweat outfits on, and why that couldn't be enforced. I'm missing that particular piece.
So there's a lot of things that go into that. One, students take gym class, and so they come to school for gym class, and then they're in trouble for wearing gym clothes. Two, sweatpants have stepped it up recently. You can get a nice pair of sweatpants that they're not like tattered, they don't have like your school name down they're expensive, they're fancy, like it's a thing, like joggers are a thing, and they're fancy sweatpants. That's the only way I know how to explain that, they're fancy sweatpants.
Right, so, because when I read when I read the proposal,
Yep.
I looked at it and I said, well, what does my student do if they do have gym? What are the rules around gym? Like, can we, are they allowed to come in if they have 11:15 gym class? Can they come in their gym clothes? Is that what the problem has been to date?
The problem is that from the student, this is from what I hear from the students.
Right.
One of the only male restrictive parts of the dress code was the sweatpants. That's what the men thought, the male students. The only thing that they couldn't do was wear their sweatpants if they wanted to. They did anyways, and they did not get in trouble. As a teacher, I did not write them up. I don't know any teacher that ever wrote up a student for wearing sweatpants.
And why didn't you feel that
Because if I wrote up every student that wore sweatpants, I would spend my entire day writing students up, and they go to administration and there's no follow-up. So they wear sweatpants the next day. It's this constant problem.
Can I say something about the description
Yes,
of
please.
sweatpants? Okay, sweatpants is because it really was sweatshirt sweatpants.
It was what?
Sweatshirt sweatpants. The fabric sweatpants,
Like
that's really what we got the hint was not accepted. But sweatpants have all different kinds of sweatpants. But the only one that we were getting the feeling was not allowed was the sweatshirt fabric sweatpants.
the thick
material we all grew up with.
But in my opinion, athletic pants that have something are sweatpants, but they're not. So that's why there was a problem with the sweatpants. And then again, to me, there shouldn't be a problem with sweatpants. They are done nicely now, as long as they're neat and whatnot. So, and that's why we're having trouble with sweatpants.
Yeah, it wasn't enforced. Kids knew it wasn't enforced. The female population felt that they were getting in trouble for their skirts, their shorts, their straps, every which way they turned, they were getting in trouble. And the guys, the guys that they were sitting next to in class every day were wearing sweatpants and shorts every day and not getting in trouble.
Well,
So-
I have a student, just so you know, I do have a student that doesn't wear sweatpants to the school because it wasn't allowed.
No,
So
there are
kids
a lot
in
of
the
students
school
that
that
do
don't do
that.
And Sue, that right there is what had teachers coming to me as soon as I got on board to say, I'm not against a dress code, but we've got to have consistency and we've got to have something that we can consistently interpret. So we try to just simplify the language as much as possible so it could be consistent.
And again, the proposed edits from the feedback that I got as House of Representatives faculty advisor, we spent a lot of time talking about it in House of Reps at the beginning of the year, and it's something that all of the, I don't know, I don't know a student that doesn't have an opinion on the dress code. So my edits were a reflection of that, and then I took with the teachers and everything, and then at the meeting that we had recently, we made even further edits to it.
Thank you.
So I'm more interested in the process that you went through than in the results, because I feel like it was too top down. It wasn't a truly complete process of consulting with the student body and having the results rise up from them. So it may be better, it may not be better, it probably is better, but the way we did it the first time, where we produced this completely unacceptable dress code, was that the Senate developed a dress code based on parameters that were set forth by Mrs. Mooney on what was the expression, now I've just lost it.
Business casual.
Business casual.
Yeah.
And the students, we had a range of things that we could have. We could have formal, business casual light, casual, I don't remember. The students in the Senate voted on, first of all, just what was the standard. And they came up with business casual light. So it wasn't going to be exactly what Mrs. Mooney wanted, it was going to be a little freer than that, but it wasn't going to go all the way to casual. That was the basis. So then based on that standard, we developed, whatever you saw there, I honestly forget what it was, and I'm not at all committed to it. But the thing I am committed to it is then the Senate took it all through the school, and they got feedback from every roundtable. And we incorporated suggestions, maybe that's why it was to some extent a hodgepodge. We incorporated suggestions from roundtables and then made a final vote. And so there was a sense that this was really student created. It wasn't just that teachers got a few suggestions and then made the dress code. And that's what I see that you've done. And so there's some things that teachers have to do, they have to teach their classes, and there isn't full consensus on everything. But I do feel that in the social areas, the more we can do to the students in the way of controlling their lives at the school, the better. And so I would say that although this may actually be exactly what all students will say is wonderful, the process has not been followed.
Sure, so we agree and we recognize that, and we want student input, we want it to be a process, but teachers also feel that there needs to be a change before school starts.
Why?
So that we can enforce it.
Well,
What we have now.
Supposing we have a little period there, 2 months, where it's just like it was last year, where it's sort of, it's the old dress code, it's not that well enforced. This is not a disaster for the school, because the school was wonderful last year, despite the fact that there was some inconsistency in enforcement of dress code. So we could, the more important thing is not the dress code, the more important thing is the leadership from students component to it, and the input, and the students feeling that it's real, that they actually do have this process where they have a say, and where it's decided in the most free and open way as possible. It's more important than consistency with the dress code. It just is.
So we want the discussion to start happening on September 4th. We want the proposed dress code, if it goes through, if it doesn't go through, we want that to be taken to every single roundtable. We want feedback. We want more edits to be made.
Who is we, though?
The
It should be the
teachers.
students that want those things, not you.
Yes, but it's the summer, and I'm speaking for the students.
Well, which
As
students are
It's
you
not
speaking
the House
for?
of Representatives.
free.
They all said that they, that you actually asked them, would you like me to speak for you in the summer session?
No.
And they
So
said, yes, please do so.
this was my experience as the rep for House of Representatives. The students, me and Lisa Moore, we were co-faculty advisors, and the number one thing that they wanted to tackle was the dress code. They very quickly lost steam because they had attempted to do so the year before, went through a lot of work. I wasn't here the year before, so I don't know what happened, what fizzled out. They said it will never get past the board, and so they stopped. We were told at the Dean Study meeting, I don't know, at the beginning of July, that a proposal was going through as part of Dean Mooney's edits to remove the sweatpants. We felt, okay, if you're gonna change something, let's make these meaningful
Well, I don't think
changes.
I mean, I think that, you know, it's not up to her either.
Pause that. So, this is a great discussion, and I think a lot of back and forth, and I get that there's kind of two components to it. One is what's in the old or new dress code, and the other is what process did we follow to get here. And I think that we heard a lot of public comment at the beginning of the meeting about students who wanted to have more say than what they had. I find fairly compelling the message from the teachers that it's important to have something that we can work with from the beginning of school. My concern about kind of doing those things in parallel is if you adopt a new dress code on August 22nd, right before the beginning of school, and then you send out the message to the students, but we didn't mean that, we really want to listen to what your input is. It sounds like we've already made up our mind. It sounds like, we're going to give you kind of a microphone, but we're not really listening because we'd adopted the thing that we liked in the summertime. And maybe that isn't what we're intending, I'm sure. Nobody here is intending that, but I think that that's the way that message will land on the ears.
It has to be real. You have to really mean that you want to hear from them. And that it isn't, that you're not just pretending that, yes, they're going to be heard from, but you are making the decisions. And it's not real now. It isn't.
Well, I think one of the founding thoughts behind this whole school before anybody was here, before we put words to paper, was giving students the ability to have these moments for leadership. So we understand that last year this was discussed, but we also have 120-something new families coming, and this pretty nicely cuts out their voice real quickly. So I get that you want it on the first day of school. I understand wanting to start fresh with something that you feel is enforceable. I think you did a nice job on it. But I do think it needs to come from the kids. That was part of our whole purpose for this school, was giving the kids that voice and learning how to do that. So we have a lot of new kids coming too that should have an opportunity to speak to this.
Well, there's always new kids, and there isn't going to be a new dress code every year.
But it's,
So,
we're gonna force it
for that, I don't think that's as persuasive an argument as if that the process just wasn't, the process just was too top down. And we have so much top down in the school, which I hoped would be bottom up. We have so much of it. I personally, I wouldn't even want to have this kind of dress code. I just want to have standards, and they'd be hard to enforce. But you deal with each student, you'd ask them, are you being respectful? Are you being modest? Are you projecting your best self? And use it as character development, rather than, let's see if it's 2 fingers or 3. But I know we're gonna go to 2 fingers or 3 fingers
Just so people know
approach.
what rules.
Because that's the way everybody does it. And we aren't brave enough to do something different that would actually be better for the students, in my opinion. But there you go.
Thank you for the comment. Hey, I want to let you have a chance to finish, and I don't know
You see-
what you want to say.
I wanted to add a comment. I'm actually starting my 4th year here at Founders this year. And as a teacher, this current dress code has made me uncomfortable at times because of the language. And in fact, I had an incident with a student because I had to often dress code her, that the student felt like she was being targeted. So it made me uncomfortable, and it made me take a step back, because my job is the most important thing. I love what I do. I love working here. And for a student to assume that I was targeting the student because of the dress code, I had to take a big step back because it was very uncomfortable. So I do find it very important to get student input, and I think that's something maybe we get House of Reps and Senate going right from the gate, and get their input. And it's important to get teacher input as well, because we are the ones who are at the forefront enforcing it. And
to be made uncomfortable when you're trying to enforce a rule. It would make it easier if we have clear-cut rules. So I totally agree.
That makes a ton of sense to me. I'm also particularly sensitive to some of the comments that have been expressed that say that either the new or the old or both fall particularly harshly on women and less on men. That can't be the approach. It's got to make sense.
Another piece of feedback that I heard frequently was that dress code, trying to interpret dress code, trying to enforce dress code is getting in the way of academic time. Students are sitting in the hall waiting for mom or dad to bring them a change of clothes as opposed to being in a classroom. So we were trying to bring the focus back to
get the rules to be a little simpler.
Get in the classroom.
Yeah, but the other is more important than that. And you can just not enforce the dress code until we have a new one.
Wow, we still have to do our job.
It's not like they're gonna be running around. They're going to have the ordinary clothes on.
I don't want to adopt a position that says we're not going to enforce it. I think if you don't adopt a new one, you enforce your old one as best you can. One of the specifics that I wanted to dig into is I looked into the old one. It dealt with sheer leggings, and in the old policy it says you can't wear the sheer leggings unless it's covered by a skirt or a dress or shorts.
Within 3 inches.
And then in the new one, shorts are gone off the list of things that you can cover sheer leggings with.
I think that's probably just an oversight. If you can, as long as it's covered, we just don't.
Students decide.
Yes.
Yeah, carry that forward into whatever
Yeah.
the debate is, the consideration is.
We
I
just don't want
appreciate
sheer
that.
clothing without something on top.
No, understood, absolutely. But
So
it seems like we're getting more restrictive on the women than instead. Right.
Well, sheer.
Well, sheer you can see, yeah.
No,
There's
I
been
agree, but
some
we could cover them with shorts
situations.
before, and now we can't.
Now we can.
So my question to everybody is, if we gonna say that the students are gonna get together and you're gonna get together with the representatives in the Senate, can we have something that can be voted on by our October board meeting, have a deadline? And then effective, when our October board meeting is, that way you have a deadline, it's not gonna go on all year. That gives you the whole month of September to really go through the school, present, vote on it in the beginning of October, and then bring it to us.
The only issue with that
Yeah.
is that the way that our student government works is they're elected from their roundtable. So there's a process before we have a House of Reps. So the House of Reps from last year and Senate isn't necessarily carried over unless those students run again, are elected by their roundtables and end up.
Okay, when does
as
that
a
take
seat.
place?
It's a couple weeks. It takes, by the end of September, we're running, but it's still,
Well, maybe we don't have to wait for student government to be up and running, and we can just do it directly through roundtables.
Yeah.
Just start the conversation and let the kids.
Well, they'll bring those ideas to the House of Reps and Senate.
And then, have your deadline as presenting at the October meeting for everyone to have a voice.
I don't agree with that, because you would be presenting to the roundtables the things that you created, not that the students created.
Not presenting anything.
No, I think
No,
we
we
can
start
start
off with the
Just the
roundtable.
topic of dress code.
no, we wouldn't be presenting
discussion.
anything.
No, they're gonna present to us in October, what the discussions come out of the roundtables.
They just want to go to the roundtables without student government. Will you be showing them what you did? Will you be?
I think we
Start
could,
with what
I
was-
think we could start with the current dress code and have roundtable advisors sort of take notes about the discussion and the proposed changes, and then we could compile that into a new document and bring it back to the kids to be either approved or tweaked.
So I have a question, and you might beat me over the head for this, and I'm sorry in advance. Is there something, Ms. Brown and Ms. Eden, that would help you two on day one, that is something that is an easy give here? That, yes, we will go back and we will talk about it with the students and all of that, but I hear that you need to have your lives made a little bit easier. And what is currently here isn't it? Is there something that is an easy give?
So I think literally just the format of the current dress code is so unreadable. As a sixth grade teacher, I'm getting the new sixth graders and I'm trying to explain to them what the dress code is, and I can't even figure out what it's talking about,
Like
when
the-
it's talking about it.
Cassidy pants or.
Right, that's why I put it into a chart. So like tops, here's what it is, bottoms, here's what it is.
So literally where that came from was you had some very, very passionate people that started this dress code
Oh,
in this
absolutely.
school who knew what Cassidy pants were, God bless them. I have no idea what they are.
Neither do we.
I think there's.
Too many adult chefs in the kitchen.
Right, yeah, right,
So I think one of the things we might be able to think about that goes along with what Sue said is sweatpants is a big issue today. If we delete the sweatpants ban from the current dress code,
No, you can't do that. We cannot do that. We can't say, we're gonna do some of it, and then you can do a little bit of it later.
they're already doing it, they're already not enforcing it. All we're doing
Okay,
is
so
putting
just
the
let
teachers in
them
a
not
position.
enforce it for now, and when we get a dress code, whatever it is, we'll enforce it. If it's a better dress code, we'll enforce it. So just let it go. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
If we spend 2 months of the year not enforcing anything and then try to start enforcing something in October, there will be a riot.
Not their fault.
Yes, there will.
That's not.
As teachers that deal with the students every day and are asked to enforce it, it has to be,
Well, you can explain to them that we're gonna make a dress code that's created by them, and once it happens, boom. And it'll be their idea.
I agree with 95% of what you're saying. I think that you've got a dress code on the books, and if you want to keep it on the books for a couple of more months while you're working on it and say, enforce it as you have all in the past, that doesn't leave them not enforcing anything. It's doing what you were doing before. And the only suggestion that I was making before is since we've got a piece of it that is essentially dead letter, sweatpants rule, why don't we lock that off and then let them enforce the thing that at least they had
No,
before,
because we have to
exactly
ask
as they
the
had before?
students. We have to ask them. You can't decide that for them. There has to be some
They've already
control.
decided it. They're already wearing the sweatpants and ignoring the rules.
Yeah, but de facto, but they haven't put their voice to it.
Well, that's a pretty strong voice.
And nobody's preventing them from doing that.
Well, they won't be preventing them now. But you cannot decide that.
Yeah, except that if you have a rule that you enforce against boys and not girls, because the girls followed all the rules in here, you're opening yourself up for someone to say, hey, that's not